The moment Claire Thompson realized she was invisible was the moment someone finally saw her. It happened on a cold evening in Portland, just as traffic lights changed and people hurried home, faces glowing blue from their phones. Claire stood at the corner of 5th and Alder, holding a coffee she didn't remember buying, wondering how a life could feel so full and yet so empty at the same time. She had loved deeply once. She had lost deeply too. And now at 39, she felt like a quiet space people passed through without noticing. Across the street, a camera shutter clicked. Ethan Miller wasn't looking for people that night. He was chasing light, the way it slipped between buildings right before sunset, soft and forgiving. Photography was the only thing that still made sense to him. After his divorce, after moving cities, after starting over in a place where no one knew his name, the camera became his anchor. It never asked questions. It only asked him to pay attention. Then he saw her. Claire didn't stand like someone waiting. She stood like someone remembering. Her shoulders were relaxed but tired, her eyes focused somewhere far beyond the crosswalk. The light touched her face gently, not dramatic, not staged. Honest, Ethan lifted his camera without thinking. One shot, then another. Not to steal a moment, but to keep it from disappearing. Claire crossed the street and vanished into the crowd. Ethan lowered his camera, heart beating faster than usual. He checked the screen and paused. The photo wasn't perfect. It was better than that. It felt real. Claire spent the rest of the evening moving through her small apartment on autopilot. She fed her cat, reheated leftovers, folded laundry she didn't need to fold. Silence filled every corner. It had been that way since Mark died 2 years ago. At first, grief had been loud, friends' phone calls, sympathy cards. Then slowly, life went on for everyone else. And Claire learned how quiet it could be. Later, restless and unable to sleep, she grabbed her coat and stepped back outside. Air smelled like rain and pavement. Without planning to, she walked into a small art gallery she'd passed 100 times but never entered. A sign in the window read, "Local photography open late." Inside, soft music played. The room was warm, black and white photos lined the walls. Faces, streets, hands, moments caught between seconds. Claire moved slowly, her heart easing in a way she didn't expect. Then she stopped. At the far end of the room was a photo of a woman standing at a crosswalk, holding a coffee cup, lost in thought. The light made her look fragile and strong. At the same time, it was her. Claire's breath caught. She stepped closer, searching for a mistake, a trick of angles. But there was no doubt. The woman in the frame carried the same tired hope, the same quiet sadness she saw in the mirror every morning. Someone had captured her without knowing her name. And somehow, they had captured the truth. "I hope that's okay." The voice behind her was calm but unsure. Claire turned slowly. The man standing there held himself carefully, like someone used to observing instead of being observed. He had kind eyes and a gentle smile that didn't ask for anything. "I didn't mean to upset you," he said. "I can take it down if you want." Claire shook her head. "No, I didn't know anyone could see me like that." Ethan felt something loosen in his chest. "I wasn't trying to see," he said. "I was just paying attention." They talked. At first about the photo, then about the gallery, then about art and cities and why people move and why they stay. Didn't mention Mark. Ethan didn't mention his past. Some things felt too heavy for a first conversation. But there was ease between them, a natural rhythm. "My name is Ethan," he said as the gallery lights dimmed. Claire. When she left that night, the streets felt different, brighter, as if the city had shifted slightly to make room for her again. The next morning, Claire woke up before her alarm. That almost never happened. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment she saw the photo. It wasn't vanity. It was validation. Someone had noticed her presence in the world. She went to work at the public library downtown, answering questions, shelving books, smiling politely. But something inside her had changed. She felt awake. Ethan spent the day editing photos, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the woman. From the crosswalk, he told himself it was just a subject, just a moment. Still, he printed the photo again, adjusting contrast, softening shadows. Each version felt like a conversation he wanted to continue. 2 days later, Claire returned to the gallery. She told herself it was curiosity. She told herself she wanted to see the other photos. But when she stepped inside and saw Ethan standing on a ladder adjusting a frame, her heart skipped in a way that surprised her. "You came back," he said, smiling. "I did." They talked again, this time longer. Coffee turned into a walk along the river. The sky was low and gray, the water calm. They spoke about loss in careful pieces. Claire mentioned her husband, without detail. Ethan listened without trying to fix anything. "Strange," Claire said, watching the water move past. "I didn't realize how lonely I was until someone noticed." Ethan nodded. "Sometimes being seen is enough to remind us we're still here." Days passed, then more days. Their meetings felt unplanned but intentional. A shared lunch, a quiet moment in the gallery, laughter over small things, no pressure, no expectations. Claire found herself thinking about Ethan in moments she used to fill with worry. She stood taller. She laughed more easily. She didn't feel guilty for it, but she did feel confused. She wasn't looking for love. She wasn't ready for it. But something was happening slowly, gently. One afternoon, Ethan asked a careful question. "Would you mind if I photographed you again?" Claire hesitated. Cameras had always felt like reminders of who she used to be. Family photos, vacations, a life before loss. But this felt different. "Okay," she said. "But only if it's honest. That's the only way I work," Ethan replied. They chose a park near the river. Leaves moved softly in the breeze. Ethan didn't pose her or direct her. He let her walk, sit, think. He photographed pauses, not performances. As he worked, Claire felt something unexpected. Peace. She wasn't trying to be anyone. She was just being. When the session ended, they sat on a bench. The sun dipped low, painting the sky pale gold. "I don't know why this feels important," Claire said quietly. Ethan looked at her, thoughtful. "Some moments arrive before we're ready. That doesn't mean they're wrong." Claire went home that night with a strange warmth in her chest. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know where this connection would lead. But for the first time in a long while, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. And somewhere between a photograph and a conversation, between grief and necktie, between grief and nets, hope, Claire felt something return. She felt alive. Claire Thompson had never expected a single photograph to change her life, but it had. The image Ethan had taken of her that evening at the crosswalk didn't just capture her face, captured a part of her she had forgotten existed. Someone who could still feel, still breathe, still hope. And now, 2 weeks later, that hope was becoming harder to ignore. The first time Claire saw Ethan outside the gallery, she tried to tell herself it was coincidence. He was adjusting frames, his camera hanging over his shoulder, focused on his work, not on her. But she felt her heartbeat shift, a familiar flutter she hadn't felt since before Mark died. Portland's streets had always felt gray and empty after loss. But now, the city seemed warmer, brighter. Filled with small surprises, the smell of rain on asphalt, the crisp wind brushing against her cheeks, the faint hum of life around her. Ethan noticed the same things, and somehow, noting together made the moments feel bigger, more alive. Their conversations became a rhythm Claire didn't expect. Coffee turned into long walks along the Willamette River. Walks turned into shared lunches and quiet pauses on benches overlooking the water. Ethan didn't rush her, didn't ask for more than she was willing to give. Sometimes they spoke, Sometimes they simply watched the sun reflect off the ripples of the river. And in that silence, Claire began to remember herself. Not the widow defined by loss, but the woman who had loved deeply, laughed freely, and lived fully. One rainy afternoon, Ethan asked gently if he could photograph her again. Claire froze. The camera had always reminded her of what she no longer had. Family photos from happier times filled drawers she never opened. Vacations, birthdays, moments now bittersweet. But Ethan's tone was different. There was no expectation, no pressure, just patience. Only if you want to, he said. And slowly, she realized that she did. She wanted to be seen not as the woman everyone thought she was, but as she truly was now. They met in a quiet park near the river where autumn leaves had started to blanket the ground. The colors were vivid reds, oranges, and golds swirled around them like nature's own canvas. Ethan didn't direct her. He let her walk, sit, and pause as she felt, capturing each movement, each expression, without intrusion. It was a strange kind of intimacy, one that didn't demand anything in return. And as the camera clicked, Claire noticed a shift inside her. She was smiling freely, moving naturally, and for the first time in years, she felt herself returning. After the session, they sat on a bench, watching the sun dip into the horizon. The river mirrored the sky, calm and golden. Claire's heart felt full, yet fragile, like a balloon barely held in hand. "I forgot who I was," she admitted quietly, voice soft but steady after Mark. "I thought that version of me was gone forever." Ethan didn't reach for her. He didn't offer platitudes or false comfort. He simply listened. "Maybe she was just waiting to be reminded," he said, eyes on the river, calm and honest. And in that moment, Claire understood. Life wasn't about rushing toward joy or grief. It was about recognizing it when it came, letting yourself feel, and moving forward without guilt. In the weeks that followed, their connection deepened. They explored the city together, visiting quiet bookstores, small coffee shops, and overlooked gardens where the flowers still bloomed despite the season. Claire found herself laughing more than she had in years. She didn't worry about what others thought. She didn't think about the past or the future. She simply existed in the moments she shared with Ethan. Moments that were gentle, real, and grounding. One evening, Ethan showed Claire a new set of photographs he had been editing. They weren't of her, but they captured something similar them. Small, overlooked details that made life beautiful. An old door with peeling paint, sunlight spilling onto a cobblestone street, a stray cat curling up in a window. "Life is in these little things," he said, "if we're willing to see it." Claire nodded, realizing he was teaching her how to notice life again, not just survive it. Claire started to notice herself in ways she hadn't in years. She bought a new coat because she liked it, not because she needed it. She walked longer, routes home from work just to enjoy the autumn air. She lingered over morning coffee instead of gulping it down. Each small act reminded her that she was alive, that she still had choices, and that she could embrace moments of beauty without feeling guilty. Their friendship, quiet and steady, eventually carried hints of something more. Claire felt it in the brush of his hand when he passed her the camera, in the way his eyes lingered on hers a moment longer than necessary, in the small smiles shared in silence. Yet Ethan never rushed her. There were no declarations, no pressure, no demands, just presence. And that presence was enough. One crisp morning, as they walked along the river, Ethan stopped and gestured toward a tree covered in golden leaves. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he said. Claire nodded. "It's perfect," she replied, feeling the words resonate not just with the scene, but with how she felt inside. "I never thought I'd feel like this again," she admitted. "Like life could be full, even after losing someone you loved." Ethan didn't answer right away. He simply smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. "Sometimes," he said, "life waits for us to notice it again. And sometimes it waits for the right person to remind us. Months passed. The city moved around them in its usual hurry, but Claire moved differently. She walked with purpose. She laughed more openly. She felt a warmth she hadn't felt in years. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't need to. What mattered was that she had found someone who saw her, truly saw her, and that she had begun to see herself again. Ethan and Claire didn't rush into romance. There was no dramatic confession, no movie-style declaration. Their connection was built on trust, respect, and patience. They shared meals, walks, photographs, and quiet moments where words weren't needed. And in that slow, steady way, Claire felt hope grow inside her. Hope that life could be beautiful again, even after heartbreak. Hope that she could love herself and others without fear. Hope that being seen could remind someone of everything they had thought they'd lost. The day came when Claire looked at the photographs Ethan had taken of her in the park. She didn't see the widow anymore. She saw a woman who had survived grief, who had learned to open her heart again, who had found joy in small moments and beauty in the overlooked. She realized then that Ethan had done more than take her picture. He had helped her rediscover life. Sitting on a bench near the river one evening, Claire watched the sun melt into the water. Ethan sat beside her, camera resting on his lap. "I never thought someone could make me feel alive again," she whispered. Ethan didn't reach for her. He didn't need to. "You were alive all along," he said. "You just forgot to see it." Claire smiled, a smile that carried warmth, strength, and quiet wonder. She realized that healing wasn't about forgetting the past or pretending grief never existed. Healing was about noticing the small, beautiful moments life offered, embracing them, and letting someone remind you of your own worth in the weeks and months that followed. Claire and Ethan continued to share quiet moments that mattered more than words. They walked streets in the city, bathed in sunlight, sat in cafes listening to music, and photographed moments others might overlook. Life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and that was enough. Claire no longer feared the future. She had learned that even after profound loss, life could surprise her. She could laugh, love, and exist fully again. The photographer hadn't just captured her image. He had reminded her of herself, the brave, living, feeling person she had almost forgotten. And in that realization, Claire knew that sometimes all it takes to start living again is someone who notices the light within you. Someone who waits patiently, photographs the quiet truth, and helps you remember who you really are. Claire felt alive again, not because of love alone, not because of grief alone, but because someone had truly seen her. And that seeing had changed everything.